Thank you. Good evening. So, for me, climate, this whole thing about climate change started in the year 1991. Because in this year, I bought this book. Actually, I have the book with me here tonight. It's called Veranderingen in de Atmosfeer. Changes in the Atmosphere. By now, the book is 30 years old. It's become yellow, the pages, look. And this book is full of warnings. It's saying that the ozone layer will degrade. It's saying that global temperature will be rising and climate will be changing. It's also saying that we should be reducing emissions. And now, ladies and gentlemen, next week in England, in Scotland, there will be a big conference, the COP26, where this topic will be discussed. It will be a big event. There will be the best scientists. There will be the best policymakers. The world leaders are going to gather and talk about this topic. Apparently, in the last 30 years, well, maybe a lot has been done, but not enough has been achieved in order to prevent climate change from becoming a global problem. And if in 30 years this problem has not been solved, the question really tonight for us is what will happen in the next 30 years? 2050. 2050 is the target year of the Paris Agreement. And the Paris Agreement is stating that the world has to be net zero by then. Are we going to achieve this goal? And to achieve this goal, the question is really, the goal of the net zero, yeah. To achieve the goal, the question is really, who is responsible? Who has to take action? Is it the government? Is it the energy companies, utility companies? The global oil industry? Or is it the people? Well, my belief is that, actually like this, you cannot expect others to change if you don't change yourself. It's a famous quote. Actually, to be honest, it's not a famous quote, it's my own quote. I hope it will be famous after tonight. It's not that the government, utility companies, the oil industry, that they have to do nothing. They also have to do their share, sure. But it's also important that people themselves do whatever they can. And that brings us to the question, how can we live more sustainable and affordable in Aruba? And the organization of this event asked me to share some of my own experiences. But before I do so, I have to make a disclaimer. I'm not here to sell any specific product or brands. You have to make your own choices. Also, this is not scientific. I'm talking only about one house, one example. To do this scientifically, you must do 100 houses, 1,000 houses to get statistics and to get to scientific conclusions. But then again, let me share. Are you ready? All right. So let's start with comfort. And why do we start with comfort? We start with comfort for the following reason. Look, typically, this is the way that Aruban houses perform. We have a house made of cement. The sun in Aruba is very strong. It's radiating on the house the whole day. And during the day, the house becomes warm inside because the heat gets trapped inside and the heat cannot escape. We can all experience this if we come home at 5 o'clock and we open the house. If the house has been closed the whole day, you will notice the house is very warm. And it's not comfortable, so you run to open the windows. But there you see that the energy problem is starting because the other solution is to turn on the air conditioning. The main energy problem can be solved by keeping the houses cool. And how can we keep houses cool? We can keep houses cool by ventilation, by having air flowing through the house, preferably the whole day. And when I designed my house, I paid a lot of attention on this. So here you see a drawing where the ventilation has really been designed. So the airflow has been designed based on the position of the house and the direction of the wind. And there are specific openings on the wind side so that the air can flow through the house and that the air can escape. And this is something very important, because if you don't do this, then you will not have this airstream through the house. I have to give a comment that you can also do this with existing houses, not only with new houses. You can take an existing house, you can create extra windows, you can create openings based on your situation to create this airflow for ventilation. Here you see ventilation openings. These are like shutter windows, but they're not opening and closing. So they're opening the whole day. They're never closing. And on the inside, there's an insect screen to protect for insects. And that means that the whole day, the air is flowing and keeping the house cool. And that's an important step in order to keep the house cool. I want to give a little demonstration of the ventilation concept because it's so important. Now you will wonder, what is this? This is actually a hole in the roof of the patio. Because the patio can also get very hot if no air can flow through it. So at the back end of the patio in the roof, there's a hole. Actually, it's an air shaft. And I hope that the technology will work because it's a little film and you will see the air. Let's see. Yes. You're seeing the lints are blowing in the wind. Those are actually from sailing boats. They're called telltales, the green and the red lints. So basically, the roof here is working a bit like the wing of an aircraft. The wind is flowing over the roof very fast, and therefore it is sucking out the hot air out of the patio because of the pressure difference that arises. So by applying these kind of principles from aeronautics, from sailing, you can see how you can make this a more comfortable place to be. And once the hole is there, it's for free also. Okay. But you can do more things. You can also, for example, do more actions to keep the heat outside of the house. Reflection. You can make a white roof. You can paint your roof white. The next time you paint your roof, paint it white. You can do special materials, reflective materials on the roof, just to reflect the sunlight that is shining on the roof the whole day. Okay, that's very important because the roof has a big surface that is taking a lot of heat inside of the house. You can do insulation. You have a brick of cement and you put a piece of foam against it. And then you plaster on the outside of the foam in order to make sure that the heat cannot enter and penetrate inside of the concrete. So you just apply foam. You can also do this with existing house. If you have a house and you have a room that is very hot at the sun side, the west side of the house, you can remodel that wall by putting foam on the outside and replaster it. And you will see your room will become much more comfortable. The same thing you can do with the roof. You can put a little bit of foam underneath the roof. And that will hold even more of the warmth. By now, you see here, excuse me for this, you can see that the brick is totally encapsulated by now. So it's protected from the top, it's protected from the side, and very little heat gets to the brick of the house itself. In physics, you can do a lot of modeling and more complex analysis on this, but tonight I'm not going to do that. Thermodynamics. So you're keeping just the heat outside of the house. Double glazing, so windows that are more protective for heat, double windows, keeping the heat out. You can put LED lights, you can do a lot of things. And then all of these interventions, all of these things will lead to energy savings because the house is more comfortable, the house is cooler, it's less energy to cool the house with air conditionings, and that will lead then to energy saving. That's why in every book, in every utility company you go online, you will see they're saying to save energy and do first measures in your house. In every book you will read this, on every website of every utility company you will read this. It's not rocket science, just we have to do it. One more thing that we have to do, that is we have to reduce the air leakage. So the rooms that are cooled by air conditioning have to be, in those rooms you have to seal the windows and the doors in order to make sure that the cold air doesn't escape, because that's an energy loss. And that will make the airco work harder. Now you will be wondering, he's talking this and that, but what is really the result, okay? So let's look at the first result, the first part of the result. What is the airco doing at night? Look at this. This is from my home energy management system. When you turn on the airco at 8 o'clock in the evening, it's consuming a lot of energy. It's 300, 400 watts, right? Because it's starting to cool the room. But then, after midnight, and in what we call the marduga, in the morning hours, you see that the energy consumption, the electrical consumption of the inverter airco drops drastically. It drops more than half. It's just a little more than 100 watts for a whole bedroom. Meaning that this is how you save the energy. This is where the gain, the energy savings is coming from. Of course, important to have the inverter, because the inverter can switch the power, but it's also important to have the building measures, because at night, the same thing goes in reverse. The insulation is keeping the warmth inside. Oh, sorry, it's keeping the cold of the airco inside. I can say, in this room, when you get home at 5 o'clock and you open the room, it's been closed, it's on the west side, on the sun side. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the room is still at 27 degrees Celsius from the previous night. So when you turn on the airco again at 9, it's less work for the airco to cool it. Anyway, that's the basics behind the energy savings. And then, oh, the money. The monthly bill is below 200 guilders for the whole house, family of 4. So you see the energy savings that you achieve, because other people are telling me they're paying much more. I don't know how much, but they're saying they're paying much more than the 200, okay? So that is how you can save and how you can contribute to the environment at the same time. But then, oh sorry, I have to go forward. We want to go to the next level. We want to go to the next level. Because climate change, the Paris Agreement, they're talking about carbon neutral, net zero by 2050. So we want to try to be net zero. We want to try to be carbon neutral. It means for the energy that you are still consuming, you need to produce that energy with renewables, preferably. In this case, I invested in a solar system, and those are generating the renewable energy in order to power the house. Here you can see the result. The red line is the consumption. The house is approximately using 600 kilowatt hours per month. That's already very little because of all of the building measures. And then we had to install the system, get it up and running, and fix a few things. As of May, it's on full force now. And you see, we're producing more renewable energy than the monthly consumption. So we're now energy neutral. And it means that there's a surplus of energy. Now, the question is, what are we going to do with this surplus? Or the question, first of all, is being energy neutral today, right? And the Paris Agreement said that for 2050, we want to be energy neutral, right? So the basic question is, why will we wait 30 years to do something that we can do today? I'm not going to wait 30 years. Are you going to wait 30 years? Okay, that's for all of you to think about, huh? That's for all of you to think about after tonight. What are you going to do? And energy is not the end. Because we have the fuel, the cars. So this surplus of energy can be used to power electric vehicle. I don't have the vehicle, but I would like to have one. And I'm expanding the solar system, making it a little bit bigger because it's not even at the full capacity, so that I will have enough solar panels to power 2 electrical vehicles, right? And if I can power 2 electric vehicles and eliminate all the fuel, all the emissions that Elton Lampe spoke about of the tailpipes of the car, right? That then is another savings, right? 450 guilders per month for 2 cars in gasoline. So that's another interesting savings and help to also to pay back all of the other investments. But of course, we're not stopping at energy and fuel. We're looking further to water, because the water company will also tell you, use your water conscious, be conscious with your water usage. And this is one of the very simple interventions. This is a water pressure regulator. It is that little device with a cone in the middle, and it's behind the water meter. And what this does, it's regulating the water pressure. So it's lowering the pressure, so it's protecting the tubes from too high pressure of the water network. But also when you brush your teeth and you run the water, less water per second is wasted. Another 50 guilders. All right. And then we're doing the gardening, because the water, instead of using water from the water company for the garden, you can reuse your own wastewater. So you can take your water out of your septic tank. This is very simple water treatment with some air pumps, the same as they're doing in the Bubali plant, but very simple. And it's irrigating the septic tank the whole day. And then you irrigate the water, and you see the garden is delivering vegetables and fruits, right? And this is saving, on the first hand, it's saving water for irrigation, but it's also producing the crop. And here you see some of the crop that was produced in the last few months, even in the dry season. And all of this then is another savings of 400 guilders in vegetables. Ladies and gentlemen, you will understand what I'm trying to tell you, huh? You can do the total savings. You have to calculate yourself. You know, this is not scientific. I'm just giving you some ideas, but calculate your total savings and see how you can live sustainable. Because then, really, is that you're doing all of them at the same time. You're living zero emission, right? That's what we want to do. Lower cost and also more comfort. Let's not forget that. Thank you. If you cannot expect others to change, you cannot expect others to change if you don't change yourself. That's my message for you tonight. Thank you.